like they had writers, and that's another thing. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my brother, right? Like I read whatever the writers wrote.
Sure.
My brother was like, nope,
this.
absolutely not. Will not do it. He's like, I would never say this. I will not say this. You will
He had
not
to be
record
difficult.
me. Yeah, he would like not do it. And again, like,
Were you sitting there like, we're going to be on TV? Like,
yeah, I'm like, you're going to fuck this up. You know, like, this is going to be our big break.
It's time for the Garage Boozing Podcast.
What's up, nerds, and welcome back to another episode of the Garage Boozing Podcast. I'm your host, the man with absolutely no plan, the Chase with the face for radio, Chase Shurga. And boy, do I have one hell of an episode for you guys today. I am joined by Shane Alden. Shane is a professional wrestler. He is also an actor, a film producer, a film director, and former MTV personality. And he tells me all about all of that. And I know you guys are going to love it. So without further ado, folks, you know what time it is. It's time to sit back, relax, kick your feet up, crack open a cold one. And if you're really feeling fruity, take a shot. Why not? Because this week's episode of the Garage Boozing Podcast starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Garage Boozing Podcast. Today, I am joined by one very special guest. To my left, your right if you're watching on YouTube, we have professional wrestler, promoter, film actor, director, and producer, and former MTV personality, Shane Alden. Shane, welcome to the Garage.
What's going on, Chase?
I love it, man. Thank you so much for coming to the Garage, taking the trip. This guy lives an hour away and came just to be here in the Garage.
That's right. Well, you know, I've known you since you were 7 years old, little kid dancing in the wrestling ring, you know.
Oh, dude. It's funny because that's actually the first thing I was going to say. Dude, I've been watching this guy wrestle for literally over 20 years, and it's so crazy because now I'm a full-blown adult. And, like, to me, you seem like you're still the same age, but apparently back then you were, like, you must have been, like, 18, 19 years old, and here I am thinking he's a full-blown adult because I'm a kid.
Well, I'm 38. I'm going to be 39 tomorrow, which is crazy. But, like...
On 420?
Yeah, and that's my birthday, April 20th, 1984.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you, man. That's coming soon. So, yeah, but it's weird. You know, I was like a kid basically when I started doing it. I try to keep myself young. You know, my body's feeling a lot older. But, yeah, man, time goes by quick. I'm finding that a lot, too. Like all these different cities that I wrestle in now, I'll, like, wrestle and I'll meet, like, adults, like full-grown women or, like... guys, and they'll come up and show me a picture of me like wrestling, taking a photo of them when they were like kids.
That's cool.
Like, yeah, it's really cool, but like I feel old now. But it's like really cool, like getting a picture of it, and they're like, you know, oh, you don't look really too much different.
I was going to say, you aged very well, dude. Like,
I'm trying to. I don't always feel like that though.
Sure, I mean, your body probably feels different than how it looks. Like, I'm 29, and I wake up some mornings, and I'm like, oh, my back. I'm like, oh, shit, I'm getting old.
Dude, you don't even know the half of it.
I know, and I'm not, dude, I'm going to be 30 in November. I'm not excited by any means.
That's crazy. Like I said, I remember you're like 7 years old, like in the front row dancing, and I'm like...
Screaming at all the wrestlers and stuff, dude. Like, those wrestling shows were the best, man. I talked to my dad and my friend Riley, who always used to go to the shows with me, and it's like... It was so cool that we had something like that so local that was so often and everything. Like, dude, the World of Hurt shows were always my favorite, and they still are. They're still going on, but we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, we're still doing it strong. Like, it's interesting. Like the motivation changes. You know, like back then it was like, oh, I gotta make it in wrestling. You know, I gotta. Like it always bothered me when I was an independent wrestler for years, man. Like doing this for years, and like I was almost like a veteran independent wrestler. But then people would ask me that question. Like that haunting, daunting question. Have you ever wrestled for the WWE? And it bothered me so much to have to say like, no. Then when it finally happened, I was like, oh my God.
I could say yes now.
Yes, like I finally did that. It's finally over. Like I did what I set out to do. But once you do what you set out to do, your goals change, and it's like it's on to something else. What's the next thing? You just move on, move forward. So,
I love that, dude. So, back to you being a wrestler. So, what actually like got you to train to be a wrestler, and like how old were you?
Okay, so I mean, this is this is really the only thing I ever wanted to do my whole life. Like I watched it like when I was a kid, my parents, I was a chubby baby, right? Chubby little guy. My parents used to call me Bundy, like after King Kong
yeah.
Bundy. And the funny thing is like the first name wrestler that I wrestled was King Kong Bundy. So that was kind of cool.
That's like full circle.
That's full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect expression. But this is like all I ever wanted to do. And like I was like the internet was just starting, the late 90s. I'm like keyboard warrior, like looking up all the wrestling schools. Like there was like the big ones in the Northeast, Killer Kowalski's. And then I came across Danger's school.
Yeah.
And that's where I ended up going. I remember like the same thing I said, like with the goals, like I went to an indie show and I'm like, man, I like went up to the ring and I like put my hand on the apron and like pulled on the ropes. And I'm like, man, if I could just like get in there and try this once.
Dude, not to cut you off, but like when I was a kid and I had the chances like during intermission and stuff, like where I could like just like jump in the ring really quick or just like pull on the ring ropes, I thought it was so cool.
Right. Yeah. And like, dude, I wasn't even a little kid. I'm like an 18-year-old kid.
I think that's cooler.
Yeah, like if I could just try this like once, and then you get in there and like you take a little some bumps and you're like, holy shit! Like I can remember like at school, I had like my arm bandaged up. I had like water on my elbow. Like I'm just feeling like death, and I'm like waking up having to go to school and then drive an hour to do the training.
So you were 18 at the time.
Yeah, I was in high school. I was like my last year of high school. That was the thing. Like on Wednesdays and I think it was Mondays and Wednesdays, we would like pack up the van and like a bunch of us would take the drive down and like do the wrestling. Like I worked at Kmart. I worked a job to pay for my wrestling training, and like that was the thing. Like I didn't go to my prom because I was wrestling.
Damn.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, like wrestling was.
You were all in.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do, and like. My thing was I was like, yeah, if I could just do this once, then I'm like, man, if I could have one match in front of people, and then it just keeps going. Like you're never content until the point where I'm like, oh, if I could just wrestle for the WWE. I'm sure that the regulars that work day in and day out are like, yeah, if I could just have a match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, right.
Like they get to be on Raw every week, and that was one of my things. Oh, if I could just be on Raw. Then I was on Raw, and it's like, oh, like I want more of this. It's just. It's a never-ending thing to satisfy your wants and needs.
Dude, and wrestling's not easy. I remember when I was 14 and 15. So when I was 14, there was like this thing where at the Chase Sports Complex in Hudson Falls, I'm sure you know where that is.
Sure.
Len Oddity had this thing where he was like doing like a wrestling school for like a day or whatever like that. And I'm pretty sure the other person was Mr. Man. I might be wrong. But I remember I'm 14 years old, and my dad lets me sign up for this. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. I remember I took a bump, and I was like, holy shit. And then I took another bump, and I was like, holy shit. I took another bump, and I cried. Like, I literally cried because my head hurt so bad. So I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm over it. So the next summer comes, and JP Black has his school, like, right above where the Knights of Columbus, where World of Hurt used to have their shows. And dude, if I remember correctly, it was like an outrageous price. My dad paid like $50 a month or something. It was like mad cheap. And dude, there was like JP Black, Bobby Fish was there. There was like a bunch of people that I was training with, and it was so cool. And then when I was a kid, I used to go to my mom's for the summer, so I was gone for like 2 months, and I came back and I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to do it. So I dropped out and then just like forgot about it. But part of me wishes like I stuck with it, but at the same time, I do enjoy being a fan because like wrestling's no joke.
Yeah, dude. Like that's the thing, and it has changed a lot for me. Like I still try to be a fan, but like now I see those guys like what they do on TV now is like different from what I grew up loving. So like when I get to and a lot of them are getting out of it now or they're getting too old, but like. When like 10, 15 years ago when I first started wrestling, getting out in the independents, like when I got to wrestle like one of the old timers that I grew up watching, I'm like, this is cool. Like this is some cool shit. But people don't realize it fucking hurts, man. Like it never stops hurting. Like hurt, you have to learn to love the hurt. And
people think it's like a trampoline. It's not. It's literally I actually went to a show when I was training at JP Black's show where like I think it was in Vermont or something where like I had to be part of the ring crew and help set it up, and then I actually saw what makes a wrestling ring. Dude, it's plywood and like an half an inch of foam, something like that. Like,
Yeah, like people tell me to like explain it, and I'm like, I don't know.
you have to see it.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, it feels like a floor with a thick carpet that gives, but it's as hard as a floor. It's wood, you know. Like, no, man. Like people don't realize, even you hit the ropes wrong. Like,
Oh, I remember I had bruises on my back when I was
Yeah,
hitting the ropes and
yeah.
stuff. Here I am 14, 15 years old. And I'm like softly hitting the ropes and they're yelling at me to do it harder. And I'm like, I can't.
it hurts, man. 14, that's crazy.
I know, it was mad young. That's like Timmy Tasteless kind of, right?
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Yeah, real quick, actually, Timmy Tasteless. I haven't heard that name forever. I don't know how I just thought of that. Like, were you related to him, or like weren't you?
I am. He's my cousin.
Yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
thought so back in the day when I found that out. So like, is he still like alive and well? Like,
He's still alive and well. He lives in Texas. Actually, you know, I feel bad because he was up here last week and he doesn't get up here often. And I know he has like a busy life and everything. You know, I get it. And like, so don't I. His mom wanted really bad for us to get together. And it just didn't happen. Like one day I was up because I live an hour, more than an hour away, you know. So I was like up here and I hit her up. I'm like, hey, I'm up here, you know. And she's like, oh, they just took a nap. Like he's asleep. And I'm thinking like, oh, and I knew I had like a crazy busy week and I had to travel. I'm like, I'm not going to see him. I'm like, it's not going to happen. And it didn't happen. So
obviously he doesn't wrestle anymore, right?
he doesn't wrestle. You know what's interesting about him? Like, as tiny as he was, God, he took good fucking bumps.
I was just gonna say that. So for those of you that don't know, you said he's your cousin, right?
He's my cousin, yeah.
Yeah. How old was he when he was wrestling? He had to be like 14, 15, 16, something
14, and like, dude, I'm like bigger and thicker.
He was a toothpick, man.
This shit, like, I can't imagine having that body, like, and feeling like what that
almost like
felt
a buttery Burt Williams, you know? Like,
yeah, but nothing against Burt, but he took like really crisp, nice bumps, and I know how much those fucking hurt. Like those must have hurt.
dude, I remember old shows where Timmy Tasteless, great name by the way, 14, 15, whatever he was at the time, dude, Danger's fucking chopping the shit out of him, and I'm like,
Right.
holy shit.
It's got to be illegal. It's illegal, right? It's got to be illegal now. Let me tell you something. I wrestled Danger. Man, what was it, like in November for the first time in years?
He's an
right?
awesome guy. I like him a lot.
He is an awesome guy, and like I will always appreciate. You know, he gave me the opportunity to like live my dream initially. Anytime he calls, you know, he had a big show at his Boys and Girls Club, and like it was packed, and like it was just cool. Like I still like. It's still cool being in the ring with him, but let me tell you, I'm like a bigger guy now.
Yeah.
I haven't been choke slammed in like 5 years. And he picked me up and choke slammed me. I'm just like, man. And I know like that's what he does. Like he's a big dude.
Yeah.
Like, that's how he gets over. I know what he does, but like I haven't been choke slammed in a long time. That shit fucking hurts.
Did he actually get you up, or was it like a Hulk Hogan choke slam where like it was like weird?
He was afraid I was gonna shitbag it, so I made a point. I made a point to get my ass up, and he's like, "Oh no!" He's like, "That was great," but I was like, "See that? I told you I'd take a good bump." I was like, I don't know, maybe the ribs on me. I should have took the Hulk Hogan bump.
Yeah, right. And dude, this guy's a big dude.
Oh, yeah, and support for the Garage Boozing Podcast. It is brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped will help you trim up the family jewels to make everything nice and right for the ladies. Make sure that you're using promo code TGBP20 for 20% off your Manscaped products. Oh, yeah!
How is your brother, by the way? Is he good?
He's good, man. Yeah, he's doing good. He's just, you know, not doing a whole lot of wrestling. So,
Dude, his gimmick with the babies and shit, that creeped me out. I was like, holy shit, is this like the Undertaker coming out here?
yeah, dude, like
It was great though, I'm not gonna lie. Like, and the music was perfect.
yeah, he did. So like my brother was always the more like exciting, like when we did like the Alden brothers, like when we did the MTV stuff and we were tagging a lot. My brother was always the more like exciting one, I guess. He had the tattoos and the long hair. And like when we would be putting together our matches, like I would be like, oh, we have to do everything by the book, and I want this to be the best match. And I'm like thinking all the, and my brother had this mentality like, fuck it, let's just jump off the balcony. Like he'd do something like crazy every match, but like there was a lot of times too where I wanted to like plan things or like be really particular, and he would just listen to the crowd and like live in the moment, I guess you'd say.
Sure.
And like I learned from him that like he was right, you know, that like you can't plan life and you can't plan like sometimes just being in the moment. That's why he was like so exciting and people connected to him.
And he was always doing savage shit too.
But
like,
that he's paying the price for it now. Like he's probably for the most part done wrestling.
Sure.
You know, so he had some health issues. He was like limiting what he was doing, and then he was like, you know, I don't want to be doing this in this way. Like he thought like the fans were going to realize that he wasn't doing the things that he was doing. I think they'd rather just have him back.
of course, I think so too. Especially
Yeah.
people that have been following World of Pro Wrestling for so long would just love to see a name like Virus, for example. You know, like remember when he was Virus? That shit was so cool.
Yeah, like he would just come out and like do a run in or something, and like the lights would go out. He'd do his cool entrance, and like he'd just come out and drop somebody, but he wasn't really wrestling. And he's like, I've done this like 5 or 6 times. Like they're eventually they're gonna need to see me wrestle though, right? And I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know. Like the
Yeah.
people that have like, been seeing it forever, like
They're not complaining.
They're-
like-
yeah, they're just happy to see him. You know.
Yeah,
for
so.
sure. So who's your favorite person to share the ring with? This doesn't have to be like the favorite person you ever shared the ring with, or like the person that like maybe you've done it more than once. Like you feel.
Let me think about that. So like favorite opponents. So Mike Bennett is definitely one.
That's cool.
Favorite opponent, Mike Bennett. Wrestled him a gazillion times. There's just like a way we do it that just is
The Miracle.
Yeah, yep, the miracle. Yep, Mike Bennett. Eddie Edwards, probably literally, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. And if you go and watch his Ring of Honor stuff, like I wrestled him twice when he was the Ring of Honor champion. He's probably the best wrestler I've been in the ring with. Like he was amazing when he was.
He's the one that Sammy Callahan took the fucking bat to his face, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was later, and I know some of his later stuff is different, but like if you look at like Eddie Edwards, like 2010 around that area, I mean, you will not find a better in-ring wrestler. Like he got the best matches out of me for sure. Like I loved wrestling him. Like it felt real, and I'm like, if I feel like this, can you imagine what the fans feel? During
Yeah.
this?
Oh, I can only imagine, dude.
Trying to think who else. Matt Hardy, I always loved wrestling.
What a guy.
Had a couple of good throwdowns with him. It's just cool, you know. I don't know, man. Like it's weird. Like I guess some.
So let me ask you this. So like say like you're booked on a show with somebody you know. I don't even know how this works. Is the card already decided yet, or it gets decided later? Because like in a situation like that, my question here is like, if you're booked on a card where like you know somebody, is it like I want to work with them, like somebody you know that you've been working with for a long time, or like you're just like whatever, like I'm booked, like I'll take it.
It's kind of like whatever. Like sometimes you'll know the matches. Like there's been times like when I would take a match and wrestle a match for like not a lot of money because I creatively dug what it was gonna be.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
like, okay, this is gonna be good. Like this is gonna be awesome. And then there's been times where like it's like a job where like the promoter tells me I'm wrestling like one of their guys that I'm not too excited about and doing something I'm not that excited about, but he's paying me, you know, the money that I
Sure.
want to be paid. So, but you have to look at it like this. Even if you're like when you're starting out wrestling, it's like there's a show in Maine, right? And even if they're going to pay you $200, would you drive right now to Maine if $200 was hanging on a tree?
No.
No. So part of what it is not about the money. Like it's just like making film. Like creatively, my favorite stuff I've ever done is the stuff that creatively I dig.
Yeah.
Like when
okay.
I get the opportunity to do something cool, you know, like or something that's fulfilling.
That makes a ton of sense.
And then sometimes it feels like work. You take the bumps and I go out there and I'm working hard, but in the back of my mind, I don't want to get hurt doing this because it's not something that
Right.
I'm really digging.
So basically, when the promoter is like, "Hey, like, do you want to be on the show?" Whatever, they tell you what you're doing.
Sometimes, and sometimes they don't. You know, like sometimes they book you and you show up and do the task at hand. You know,
Oh, that's
you do it
cool.
still.
Okay.
Like there's been times, you know, things always change. You know, there's been times I show up and like I don't know who I'm wrestling. My opponent isn't there, and I meet him. I don't even meet him 5 minutes before the match. One time I was at WWE. I had a WWE tryout, right? And like all the other guys that are there, we're all at SmackDown at TV early, and all the other guys that are there, they're like, we're gonna have tryout matches. and everybody links up with like like my brother, right? He links up with Jeff Starr. Because
Okay.
they had just wrestled each other like a couple days before. Like, they're going to have a great fucking match.
Of course.
I ended up wrestling some guy that didn't even speak English.
Oh, great. How
Yeah,
do
and
you
I'm like-
call that?
Yeah, I'm like, you motherfuckers. But like, you just do what you do, and like, that's part of what you do. Like, if you know how to do it right, like you don't plan everything. You feel things and things happen, and you know what to do when the timing is right.
That's actually interesting. Like interesting as hell. Like this wasn't even a question here, but I'm going to ask you. So like you're in that situation where you're wrestling this guy who doesn't speak English, and like obviously like during the match, wrestlers are talking to each other, calling different spots, stuff like that. Like, how do you do that if the guy doesn't speak? You're just feeling it out and you just like send it.
I don't you don't call a lot. Like you just work, I guess what they call like the best stuff is like the stuff that seems real. Like, you know what to do. It's funny that you say that. So Delirious from Ring of Honor told me this. I just think it's so fucking funny. But if you watch wrestling, like the most said thing that a wrestler will say in the ring, he'll do something and he'll be like, "Come on."
Of course, yeah.
He was telling me that like people that don't even speak English say that. Like Japanese wrestlers or Mexican wrestlers.
Come on!
Yeah, they'll like drop kick a guy, get up and be like, "Come on." And like they don't even know what they're saying. It's just like one of those like universally said things, like say anything but that. Don't say that.
I know, right?
I don't know why that stuck with me. I think that's funny as hell.
That's hilarious. Who would you say is like the biggest name you've been in the ring with?
Jeez, I've been in the ring with some big ones.
I was gonna
I've
say
been lucky.
I knew that was a loaded question for you because you've been in with a lot of like big guys.
Let me tell you the coolest one. So the coolest one for me, and I've met him a bunch of times, and obviously was like my wrestling idol growing up, like because he was the champion during my era, the early days of Raw, early '90s. Bret the Hitman Hart.
Oh shit! Okay.
Right. So yeah. So like I grew up watching him on Monday nights. My dad would be like, he'd send my sisters to bed and be like, "All right, you can stay up and watch."
Dude, his
Raw."
entrance music. Oh, I used to love that. The
Yeah.
guitar riff. Oh, great.
Yeah, for sure. It's like Bret Hart's wrestling to me.
Yeah.
You can stay up and watch it. So I would Bret Hart was my guy, man. He made the pink and black and the sunglasses cool. So I had met him a few times at like other shows, and like, I had heard he could be difficult. So let's talk about when he came to WOH wrestling, right? He came to our wrestling organization. Everybody's telling me like he's gonna ruin it for you because he's not like, he can be hard to deal with at times. Blah 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 blah. Bret Hart came in and treated me like gold, man.
Really?
And he made a point to talk to all the wrestlers. Like he wanted to go down. Like I know how it can be. Like for like a big name wrestler, you come to an independent show, you do a 2-hour meet and greet upstairs with all the fans. Then you go downstairs to the locker room.
And you got to do another meet and greet.
Yeah, it's like another meet and
Yeah.
greet, meeting all the guys. Bret Hart, like his leg is bad from his stroke, right? I can
Yep.
tell he has a little difficulty getting around. He made a point to go down and talk to all the guys, and then he came up when we did a promo in the ring, and like he told me in the main event match like that I could use the sharpshooter, like put his arm around me, and like that was cool.
That's
and then like
mad cool.
yeah, when I had the match and like put the guy in the sharpshooter and won, I'm like, this is better than wrestling on WWE. This is the coolest fucking thing I've done.
That's like a childhood dream, Like that shit's cool.
Yeah, like my parents met him at the meet and greet, and of course my mom, she airs all the dirty laundry. She tells Bret Hart, "Oh, Shane loves you."
Putting you right on the spot.
Yeah, he grew up watching you, and like Bret's like, "Well, what about you? Are you a wrestling fan?" And she's like, "Only because of my husband and my 2 sons." And Bret Hart comes downstairs and says to me, "So I understand that your dad and you and your brother put your mom through a life of wrestling."
That's so cool.
Yeah, he was really cool. So like that was wild for me. Like they say like, it's there's been a big dispute online lately about like, is it right for like up and coming wrestlers to take pictures with the wrestlers that they grew up watching? Like I cherish the pictures I have of me and Bret Hart. Like he signed a pair of Bret Hitman Hart sunglasses to me that night. He was just like super cool, and like I mean, I don't care. I'm going to keep those. I remember when I was 7 years old and I ordered them out of the wrestling magazine.
Yeah.
Mailed in the money order and got them.
Remember that, dude? Like before you could just order shit online, you had to like have a little book and you're like selecting the thing and you got to put like the check in there and everything and send it out.
Yeah, and then wait by the mailbox. You know,
is it coming today?
That was the coolest one. Like I've been lucky though. I've been able to like work and interact with a lot of big names and like do a lot of cool shit, man.
Dude, that's so fucking cool.
That one's my favorite though.
Oh yeah, so World of Hurt Wrestling. So like you're basically you are the World of Hurt Wrestling like promoter. Are you owner now?
Yeah, the owner. It's interesting. I started wrestling when I was 17 for World of Hurt.
Right.
I inherited it. That's what it feels
I was gonna
like
say.
to
So
me.
you weren't the owner back then.
No,
World
I
of Hurt wasn't you then.
I was a teenager. It was Danger and all the guys that he started.
Oh,
with.
okay.
So what happened was this. Like I had spent, after World of Hurt ended in like 2004 or 5.
I was gonna say it went away for a while.
It went away for a long time, and like during that time, I like grew up, did a ton of wrestling, got a ton of really cool opportunities. Did the MTV thing.
Yep.
Got some just wild opportunities for somebody my age. Got really lucky. And then in 2012, like I would run into somebody from World of Hurt here and there. And I was finally like, I'd like to just one time just bring it back.
I remember that.
Bring the gang back together. So we brought it together one time.
It was branded like that, right? Wasn't it like the reunion time one?
Yeah,
thing,
the
whatever?
reunion. Yeah, the World of Hurt reunion. Everybody came back for one time. And it was like the time of our lives, right? So it never went away. And I just kind of like inherited it. And then I started running our shows. And like, next thing you know, that was in 2012. So Jesus, I've been running it for over 10 years at this point.
Yeah, so did the original people have a problem with you taking the name? Or they were just like, go do it, dude?
No, dude. They were like, go do it, dude. And like, Danger that started it, like, we just did a World of Hurt show for him under his banner. And like, It's like, he gets to come back and do it. Like nobody's been like, there was no like struggle for power or anything. Like, I think I've done it justice because it's been more successful under my watch than it ever has. But like part of it is like, having the resources and like all that and the time to put behind it. Sometimes it's like it's like the mistress that never loves you back.
Right.
I have to say, like, man, I'm tired of this shit. Like,
it's got to be a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and like, I just feel like if I stopped doing it, it would disappoint a whole lot of people, like, wrestlers, fans.
There's fans that have been watching World of Hurt Wrestling for a very long time.
Literally.
Myself included.
Yeah, literally grew up with it. And it's like I see the same fans this last weekend that I saw 20 years ago. It's wild, man.
Like Brenda and Maurice,
Oh, no. Maurice, I saw him Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Dude, Maurice is always so funny screaming at the wrestlers. I was like, oh my God, this guy's getting kicked out. Savage. Yeah. But, so, like, being a promoter, like, how do you get in contact with, like, big names? Like, I know you just had, like, Fandango. People say Fandango, and he's like, Fandango. Like, how do you get in contact with someone like that? Like, does he have an agent that you have to contact to ask to book? Like, that's so intriguing to me.
It's all different, really. Like, so, I mean, being in the wrestling business helps. Like, I feel like, so Kelly, she used to, she was a pageant queen in 2013, and she had her own pageants. And she just slowed down doing the pageants because she's not really involved in the industry a lot. And that's part of like the original owners of World of Hurt. Like they don't really do it anymore. Like they told me like, we don't even know who's out there, like who's wrestling regularly. Like I've met a lot of these people either at WWE or at other independent shows. Like I know who's out there, who works hard, who shows up for their bookings and how to reach them.
Yeah, because you've been wrestling for a while, so you definitely have a bunch of contacts.
That's it. That's all it is. It's just knowing your industry. If I was out of it for 5 years, I think it would be really hard to put together a wrestling show. I'd be calling like, "Hey, who's out there still? Who's got a ring? Who's got guardrails? Like, who does your sound now? Who's wrestling still?" So
it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Who are your top 5 wrestlers of all time? That list is easy for me, but I came prepared here. So, like...
Okay, so we're definitely...
You got to have a number 1, right?
Yeah, we're definitely going to put Bret Hart there is number one. I think, and I'm not the first one to say this, but like, obviously my guy, I grew up watching him, but if you watch his stuff now, his stuff holds up. Some of the others, like everything's believable, everything is serious. Like that's the kind of wrestling that I grew up watching and stuff. I think his work holds up today. Like you can watch, like some older matches you watch, and it's like they're wrestling at a snail's pace, and some of it's really corny. Like everything Bret Hart did 30 years ago holds up today. It really does.
Yeah, and he also spit
stuff.
a loogie in Vince McMahon's face and then knocked him out backstage. Balls on that guy.
Exactly. Yes. But Bret Hart's up there. Shawn Michaels probably like in my opinion, the best wrestler of all time.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, he can do anything, like that Mr. WrestleMania, right?
Of course.
So those are probably my top two, and like you can definitely tell the era that I grew up on
right.
when I say that. Like maybe somebody younger is gonna say like John Cena, or
right.
If they're before me, they're gonna say Hulk Hogan. But let's just stick with those two. I think those are my top two.
So I'll give you my top 5 anyway. So my number one by far, everybody knows, is Shawn Michaels. I fucking love Shawn Michaels, and it's so funny because I was such a kid that like Shawn Michaels became my favorite wrestler when he came back, because I didn't know Shawn Michaels before he came back in 2002. And like once I did some research and found out how like saw his stuff back then, I was like, oh my God, he's my favorite even more. But like, of course, there's all that stuff about him being a shitbag behind the scenes and stuff. That's all out there. People know. But like back then, like wrestling was way different than it is now, But that the way that guy moves, like, dude, a sweet chin music, I love it. Like, if I was a wrestler, it'd be my favorite. But now they overuse it, super kicks. People complain about that. I don't care. I love the super kick parties and stuff like that. This shit's so cool to me. I don't know. Shawn Michaels, easy number one. Number two, this has changed in the past couple years. Now would be Cody Rhodes. Because I actually was never a Cody Rhodes fan until he left WWE. And then when he debuted with the Bullet Club in New Japan, I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. He had a little promo. He's like smoking a cigar and shit. And then when he came out to the theme song, wrestling has more than one royal family. And like it hit, I was like, holy shit, this is way cooler than his old stuff. And like now, obviously, he made his return back to WWE. He's blowing up, huge guy. I love everything Cody Rhodes is doing. Number 3 would definitely be Matt Hardy. I love Matt Hardy. I've always loved the Hardy Boys. And it's funny because you probably will agree with this, most Hardy Boys fans, Jeff was like the favorite.
Right, yeah.
To me, it was Matt, dude. I always loved Matt. And then when he did the thing with version 1 and stuff like that, and then when he went to TNA, did the delete. Oh, I fucking loved it. It was so cool. Number 4, Chris Jericho, of course. More old school Chris Jericho than now. Like Chris Jericho is just like, I understand what he's doing. He's around. He's just like helping out and stuff. But he's not as exciting to me as he was like, break the walls down. That was way cooler. Number 5, Scott Hall. Done. Oh, I actually honorable mention Christian. But not now Christian. I don't really love Christian now. I used to love when Christian would do the things where like he was like a crybaby almost. Remember like when like in the early 2000s, like he'd lose a match and he'd be like freaking out in the ring. Like, dude, I just love shit like that. It was so cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, see, like Cody, I wasn't watching a ton of WWE at the time because I was just doing it so much. So I didn't really see a ton of Cody and like the Stardust thing. I was aware of it.
I hated that.
But I didn't watch it. But I met him. I seen him every other weekend at an independent show during the time that he was away from WWE.
He did a lot of like Northeast wrestling and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, he did a ton of Northeast wrestling shows. Always the way he dresses on TV with the full suit. He showed up to every show looking like
that's
that.
him, right? Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, he dressed for the job that he wanted and not the job he had. And then like
I respect that.
Yeah, I respected it too. And I had a front row seat to all of it. Saw him at Ring of Honor, like how much thought he put into everything. And like, I mean, I think he put himself, he bet on himself. Put
And he
himself
fucking
in a
won.
he put himself in a good position. So he's definitely a strong choice for sure. I think he's like, he's the flag carrier now.
Now we're going to take a whole 180 here.
Okay.
So now you do acting too as well, and directing and producing. What got you into film?
So I've always loved film, and like, I mean, it's a lot like wrestling. Like, you gotta love to tell stories, and that's the thing. Like, I toward the tail end of the wrestling, I started like really, getting into the promos and like just being at WWE. I saw the production, and I'm like, wow, what a production. And like, so I wanted to get more into production, and like, I worked on some other people's television shows. And then like, I met actors and interacted with actors. The only reason I started acting at all, like I took acting classes. Like,
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I went to Sage, to the Theater Institute. I wanted to learn. I read books about it. I wanted to learn like how actors think and what they do, because my end game was I wanted to produce them. And in order to like really, like, a director's main task is to like be able to communicate with actors and get the performance that you need from actors and visualize your story. Like, I realized though in like film, like I just being in wrestling so long, like I got tired of being in the limelight. There's really something to be said for being the guy behind the camera, and it's cool like doing it for other people.
Yeah.
Like seeing something on a script and taking a story and saying like, how do we visualize this? How do we make this happen? Like, how do we tell this? How do we put this to screen? And that's what like my love of like film and production is. I really got into acting though, just, as an education on how to direct actors and how to produce, because I knew what my end game was. But it was really cool. I learned a lot. Like actors, man, they go through a lot. They put
I can only
themselves
imagine.
mentally through a lot. So it's good. Yeah, it's cool. That's how I got into it though. I just worked on some other people's TV shows. Like, you meet production people with wrestling. I met a lot of production people.
So were you like an actor first, or did you do like behind the scenes first?
I was doing both at the same time.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing both at the same time. So I was doing a little bit of acting, but I did everything. I was like boom micing. I was doing audio, like holding up the boom mic for like, 6 hours for somebody.
Oh my God.
Yeah, for free for people's productions. So like,
That was probably fun though.
it was, but like,
But your arms hurt.
yeah, I mean, and I would wrestle like the day before. And
Oh
then,
my God.
yeah, I would like travel and wrestle, and then I'd show up on set and like hold up the boom
Holy
mic for
shit.
like 7 hours. And I'd be like half asleep, like, oh my God, like working for free, because I wanted to learn how to do it and all that. So I worked on a few other people's shows, and like it's just like anything. You meet people. So like then when it came time for me to produce something, it's like, oh, this guy's an expert at this. I worked with him on this. Or like, this is the right person for this job. And
Oh,
I
because you
worked
know
with
people
him.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And like communicating with actors, like I worked with some not so good actors, and I worked with some really talented ones. So like everybody's got like a different thing, and it's yeah, that's what I dig though. It's just like, making it happen for other people.
That's awesome, dude. You've had so many cool experiences in your life. Damn. And like the process of like filming to editing to actually releasing is probably lengthy as hell, right? Like you have a whole team, because like now you're like part of a media team, right? Like
Right. Yeah, you have a whole team. So here's the interesting thing. And like I learned this a lot when we did Against the Ropes, when we did the series, right? So there's three stages, right? There's the script that's written, there's the script you shoot, and then there's what's edited.
because it
So
changes probably, right?
It changes hands so much. And like, if you're the executive producer or the director, which was my role, like I kind of oversaw it all, but I was also smart enough to know like, this guy's an expert at editing. I'm going to like give him my input and tell him what I want, but I got to also step back and let him do his job. And same thing with the actors and actresses. Like, to get what you want, they have to bring their guard down. And sometimes they over deliver, and you have to listen. You have to be a good listener. Like, there's a lot of directors that, they do a whole lot of talking and not a lot of listening. And when you're dealing with actors, you got to communicate. So, but like writers too, like I have a tentative rule in my production company. Like, we don't let writers on set, because they write something, they feel strongly about it. And it just can't be that way, because when you write something, someone else is going to direct it and produce it.
Right.
And then the actors are going to put their twist on it, or they're going to interpret it however they interpret it. And then same thing with the cutting room. Like, I learned like there's some things that I shot that I was like directed, or I did the cinematography. I'm like, wow, what a beautiful scene, or a beautiful camera work or whatever. If it doesn't move the story forward, it needs to go.
Sure.
And that's a painful thing.
I was gonna say it could probably be hard, right?
It's very hard. So like again, you got to trust your editor. Like if he tells you like, look, you have to let this go, or like this needs to go, then you have to think big picture. I guess that's the best advice in film. Like you got to think big picture.
So the cutting room, that sounds to me like it's like the editing room. Is that like what they
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, the cutting room's an old term because they used to literally like cut.
Oh, cut the film.
Film.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's the editing
How would they put it
process.
together? Like if they cut it, like how?
I don't know. It's before my time.
That's funny. Like I'm thinking about that. This guy like grabbing film with scissors and just going snip, snip. I'm
Literally,
glue?
they would like cut frames out. Yeah, they'd have a long strip and they cut the frames out, and then
You have to be so precise doing that. I feel like holy shit.
yeah, man.
Wow,
Yeah.
I love technology. Like I'm glad we don't live in those days. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what
Everything's easier.
technology's like in like 30 years from now. Like, I don't want to know. But my last question here for you is, so as I introduced you, previous MTV Personality, can you tell me about getting casted on the show and about the show and what that was like?
Well,
It was True Life, right? Like
it was True Life.
That was an
yeah.
old school MTV show. A
Yeah.
lot of you are probably fucking like not even old enough to know what True Life was, but back in my day, it was a TV show where there was MTV's True Life, where there was True Life. His was True Life. I want to be a pro wrestler, right?
No, it was I Have a Jealous Sibling.
Oh, that's what it was.
That's what it was. It was about me and my brother wrestling.
Oh, why did I
Yeah.
think it was like True Life? I want to be. Wow, I
Yeah.
was way off.
So the True Life thing was interesting. Like, again, like I said, like that's how my path took me on through wrestling and film and television and then back to television. Like
I can't believe that was the name. I thought all this
Yeah.
time. Holy shit.
True Life, I Have a Jealous Sibling. So the real storyline was about me and my brother wrestling and not getting along. And there was some truth to it, you know, like, so the way we got cast on it is we met a producer at a wrestling show. We had a match and we had an argument. We were not good wrestlers. Okay, we were like, okay, we're not getting booked. This is after World of Hurt ended. We're not getting booked anywhere. Things are not working out on our own.
So this was a real argument.
This is real. Yeah,
Okay.
This is all real. Like things are not working out, you know, in our wrestling careers on our own. Let's join forces. We travel everywhere. Anyways, we can tell promoters, hey, we're brothers. We're a tag team. You know, we get matching gear. We're going to start wrestling, right? So I'm like oil and he's like water. Like, just like we're like totally opposite.
Polar opposites. Like if
Polar
you,
opposites.
If you saw the old school, like the Alden brothers, literally polar opposites. Absolutely.
So like we disagreed on everything really. And we had one night, I think we're out in Boston or whatever. We had a miscommunication. And a guy comes up to us and he's like, hey, you know, you guys had a miscommunication and like you're arguing out there and everything. I'm like, yeah, you know. And he's like, well, what if I was a producer for MTV and we're doing a show about like siblings? And I'm thinking like, all right, this guy's working me, you know, whatever. He's pulling my chain or whatever. So I start working him a little bit, you know, and like putting on, and then like it was all true. Like he was like, look, we want to come out and see you guys. And
So
like,
he just happened to be there?
he just happened to be there.
No
yeah.
shit,
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, he just happened to be there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he was a producer for Viacom for MTV and the news and docs, and he's like, we want to feature you guys on True Life. So of course, you know, once we hear that and we know it's a done deal, then we start really like embezzling it and making it like, you know, we start
Right.
really making it crazy, like upping the stakes,
Of course.
as they say. But no, it was like some parts of it were tough though, like being mic'd all the time. You
Yeah.
know,
How long was that like the filming process?
it was, oh dude, it was like a whole summer.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they
I
came-
thought it was like 4 days.
No, they came all the time, and that's the thing. They cut some things the things I liked about the show. I'm like, oh, I can't wait till they see this on TV. Those things didn't make it, and other things that I thought were dumb were on the show. But being mic'd all the time was hard. Like, you know, like you want to go in and use the bathroom, they got to undo your mic, take everything off, or they're gonna hear the piss going in the toilet.
Or the shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that was tough. Like just like that, I learned a lot about like television and like how it's produced and like how tedious it is. You have to have patience.
Dude, and they edit it too, where like things like that were like you were there living it, like they can edit shit and it's like not exactly how it played out and stuff like that. I don't know if that happened exactly to you, but that does happen on TV where like
It does.
editing is so choppy and like
And like some of it was written like when we did voiceovers for scenes, like they had writers, and that's another thing. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my brother, right? Like I read whatever the writers wrote.
Sure.
My brother was like, nope,
this.
absolutely not. Will not do it. He's like, I would never say this. I will not say this. You will
He had
not
to be
record
difficult.
me. Yeah, he would like not do it. And again, like,
Were you sitting there like, we're going to be on TV? Like,
yeah,
come on.
I'm like, you're going to fuck this up. You know, like, this is going to be our big break. But it was like, it's quieted down a lot now. Like, I mean, I think I'm always going to be known as like the wrestling guy, you know, in these parts. But
Especially around here. Yeah, totally.
yeah, like when it first aired though, like, I mean, we would go into like Tropical Tan to our tanning salon, and everybody would be like wanting to take pictures with us. And they're like, that's the MTV guys. Like, that's part of the reason I moved away a little bit too. Cause like I'd go into Walmart and I'd get like, I'm just trying to get in and like buy a tube of toothpaste without being harassed by
And the person at checkout's like, oh, weren't you on MTV?
yeah, it's like, oh gosh. And like, I appreciate all the opportunities, and I'm like really gracious about everything, but
It had to be cool, like
It
go
was.
to like Walmart and like getting like all that. But like when you're there just to like get some toothpaste and you're like in like a hoodie and like some sweatpants and you just want to get some like toothpaste and get out, like I can only imagine
Yeah.
it. And like think about pro wrestlers who are like coming through an airport at 4 a.m. and get bombarded. I totally get like these people that are coming up with like autographs and stuff and they're like, oh, sign this, sign this. I wouldn't want to do it either.
I'm glad it's like a new, so I'm glad I'm not going through some of that, you know, to that extent,
Right.
or in this era that we're in now.
Yeah.
It's like a different thing, you know, like, but it was tough. Like sometimes you just need your space or you need a break. Like go into the gym, like you want to go in, you have, you know, 45 minutes before you have to be to work or something. And it's like, I got to get my workout in. Like,
Hey,
know,
can you take a picture with me?
yeah, people want to like talk or like ask questions, and it's like, you know, you want to do that, but it's like, you know.
It's funny you say that because I WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans. Me and my friends went there, and then we had a hotel, and across the street there was a what's it called? Not a Waffle House. What's the other thing I'm thinking of? It's not Denny's. It's not Waffle House. It's the other one. Fuck.
IHOP.
Yes, it was an IHOP.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting down eating at IHOP, right? Kevin Owens walks in with his wife, and they're just coming in, and like he's getting bombarded. He's pissed. Like he's like, it's 2 a.m, which it was. It was after WrestleMania. Like the guy, maybe he was staying at the same hotel or something very close to it. Just wanted to eat some food, and like people are like, hey, like sticking a camera in his face. He's like, no, like I'm not taking a picture. Blah blah blah. So he like go at the same time we're leaving. He's like checking out because at IHOP, Denny's, all these places, like you can't just like leave your card on the table. You have to like bring it up to the lady to like check it out and everything. So he's doing that. And my friend Kyle, he's wearing a Kevin Owens shirt. And I forget, one of us was like, hey, Kevin, great match tonight. He's like, thank you. He turns around, sees my friend Kyle's shirt. He goes, hey, nice shirt. And it was just so cool, like, because like we didn't bombard him, like we weren't assholes to him. Where he's like having time with his family and stuff like that. So I can only imagine, like, you were on MTV and like you're getting bombarded and stuff, but like these people go through so much.
It's crazy, and like that's the thing. It's a different kind of life, and like, you know, I'm thankful that I have the path that I took, and like things turned out the way it is. Like, I got to and get to live my dream. Like I grew up watching Raw. I've been on it a ton of times. But I'm not, it's like the army, man. And people don't realize it's a deep commitment to go and do all that and to live that life. Like you're not around for holidays or birthdays. And like,
Yeah.
like my heart goes out to them that are full time there. That
I
have
respect
to
the
do
shit
all
out of
that, you know? And like, I'm lucky. I get, you know, like I get the best of both worlds. Like I'm very thankful for the days now where I'm home at my place on the edge of Vermont. I got 3 large dogs and recently married, and I mean I'm living the dream right now.
Ton of land, like dude.
You know, you just got it's nice to be simple sometimes too.
So I said my last question was my last one, but I'm gonna ask you this one real quick. So like you've been on like Raw and like you've done stuff for WWE. How does that work? Like how do they find you? Do they just call you and they're like, hey, it's so and so from WWE. Do you want to like come to the show and like be an extra? Or like how does that work?
Kind of like that's how it happened the first time, and then the gentleman that was like, dude, I saved it on my cell phone. I still have it on there. The voice.
I would never delete that. That's so fucking cool.
It was like really cool. You know, the first time I ever got the call, and like
I would have shit my pants.
I'm trying to think, but I've probably done it like 15 times.
Yeah, you've done it a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
you were like you were in Adam Rose's fucking party thing too, right?
Yeah, I got to. I did a thing with Brock Lesnar, and I even got to wrestle. You know, I've got to wrestle for the WWE.
Yeah.
Like, but so like I've got to do some cool shit, but like yeah, it's random. Like, you know, you apply and it's different now. Like they don't. I mean, I think you have to be at one time, anyways. You had to be like a good, you know, well-rounded, solid professional wrestler to even get considered.
Sure.
Like when I first was doing it, like Regal was there. And he was like booking us and like talking to us a lot. And like,
that's mad cool, really.
yeah, and we were doing like we would have tryout matches every Tuesday because Raw was live on Monday. Then they taped SmackDown on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was like a taped show or whatever. So if you were gonna get anything, it was usually like in-ring stuff. It was usually on Tuesday, the day after. But like they don't even do that now. Now it's like casting. They're just like they're looking for like the right people for whatever the job is. But like there was a time when you went that it meant there was like interest in you or they were looking at you. But yeah, no, man, it's the first time I got the call and I went and did it, I just took it for what it was. Like, I'm here to do a job. I'm not trying to get signed. I'm not trying to like they didn't bring me in for that. They brought me in. My duty is to do the best job I can with whatever they've given me, whatever that might be, and to act professionally as I do it, you know? And that was, I think that went a long way because they brought me back countless times. So, you know, it's just like being an extra or doing something in a film, like, you know what your job is.
Yeah.
Go there professional, keep your mouth shut unless you're spoken to. If they give you something to do, over deliver, but don't go into business for yourself.
Right. That's a very common term.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So
you'd be like backstage though, right? Like,
oh yeah. Yep.
So like, did you just like talk to people or were you just like, you didn't want to be that guy who was like, hey, you know, like I'm such a big fan.
I feel like this, like, you know, I talked to a lot of wrestlers and I guess like way back in the day, it was like really cutthroat and there was like a lot of bullying, I guess, going on.
JBL, you hear stuff like that, you know?
So like I made like being in the film industry and the acting industry, I had talked to an actor that worked with Tom Cruise. And he said that like before I shot the scene with him, I made the decision not to be nervous. Like I went into this and I'm like, look, I'm just going to do this. Like this is like I was born to do this. Like I'm not going to be nervous. I'm not going to walk on eggshells.
Send it.
Yeah, I'm just going to send this. And like, you know, there's respect to doing that. You know what I mean? Like you do that. Like I didn't walk on eggshells, but I didn't do anything stupid either. You know, but I wanted to like take it all in. I didn't hide in a corner. I went out and talked to people, but I didn't wear out my welcome either. You know, because I feel like if you like, you know, all the divas are there. If you're a low man on the totem pole, it only take one time to like say something stupid. They're like, all right, this guy's creepy. Get him.
We can't have him back. Get him the fuck out of here.
Yeah, let's get this guy out of here. Like, so like I like, you know, kept my head down a little bit, but I didn't walk on eggshells. And when, like I said, when they needed me for something or when there was a task, I try to over deliver or do it to the best of my ability and professionally. And that's all you can do. So, but yeah, you get to see everything backstage. It's fucking
Did you get to eat catering?
cool. Oh yeah. The food's great. Like,
Is it actually great? I was always
Yeah, the
curious about
food's
that.
great,
Like
yeah.
what do they have?
oh, it depends what night you're there.
Really?
It's the best eating you'll ever do.
Really?
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
fantastic.
better than Golden Corral.
Oh, it's way better. It's like a high-end Golden Corral.
Dude, they say catering. I'm thinking like hot dogs, hamburgers. You're saying it's better than that.
Oh, it's really good. Yeah. No, it's really impressive. It's a damn nice spread of food they got. No one ever walked, like as soon as I knew I wasn't doing anything, I'm like, all right, I'm going to eat everything in sight. But everybody's like trying to like be their slimmest and like look their best in case like they're needed for a match last minute or something. It almost reminds me of this, like the last few times I've been, like they'll have like a lot of like extra talents there. And it's like, oh, one of the producers come up and it's like all the puppy dogs at the, they're just hoping to get picked for something. Like, oh, I hope they want me. They want to take me home and adopt me. into this role, you know? It's like a bunch of lonely, or like, you know, when you're picking your teammate, you don't want to be the last person picked, like, oh, I hope he picks me for to do something, you know? It's funny stuff though. But it never gets old. It's good stuff, fun stuff.
That's amazing. Like I said, man, you've had so many great life experiences. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, well, nothing special. Just, you know.
I mean, I'd say it's pretty special. But all right, Shane, I've taken up a bunch of your time. I'd say this is all the time we have here in the garage. Shane, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. This was absolutely awesome. But yeah, man, thank you so much again. And after all this time I've known you, thanks for coming to my house and my garage and
thanks
having a
for
conversation with me. This is going to be great. And yeah, we'll see you nerds next week.
Hey, nerds, please don't forget the #1 way to support the brand. Buy some merch. We've got hats, hoodies, sweatshirts, t-shirts, and it's all available to you at www.garageboozing.net/shop. And don't forget to follow on all your favorite social media accounts as well as YouTube at Garage Boozing. And of course, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, whatever the button may be, to the Garage Boozing Podcast on your favorite podcast platforms so you can be notified as soon as a new episode is released.
Ladies, gentlemen, and nerds. Do you have what it takes to be a guest on the fastest growing, alcohol chugging, and nonsense talking podcast? Well, now is your chance. The Garage Boozing Podcast has new guests every week, and you could be one of them. Just simply log on to www.garageboozing.net, click the Be on the Show tab, and submit your information. It's that simple. Join the boozement, or be a loser. Don't miss your chance, because we're taking this to the moon.